Hello everyone, welcome to Module 5, Week 5, which is almost a third of the way through. You're doing great, hang in there. This week we're going to talk about socioeconomic status, ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, trauma, and resilience. Our check-in for this week includes making sure that you've already completed Module 4. Make sure that you have those resubmissions in for Brofenbrenner's Ecological Systems Theory. So if you were someone who wanted to try and get a higher grade, the last absolute day you can do that is this Saturday. I also want you to be aware that we have a new project starting, and that's going to be a two-part project. We're going to start part 1 this week, which is Ecological Systems and Marginalized Populations. We're going to work on awareness and reflection. There's going to be a great deal more about that in the checkout process, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And I want to give you a warning. This week is going to be heavy. It's a difficult week. We're talking about a lot of heavy things. We're going to talk about abuse and trauma. Not always the easiest things to discuss, but they are very impactful for our children and our families, so you need to make sure you have that information. Our 2 student learning outcomes that we need to know by the time we leave the course include identifying how the child develops within a system and is influenced by multiple factors of socialization, including the educational, political, and socioeconomic impacts on children and families. So this week we're really focusing in on those socioeconomic impacts. We also need to be able to describe the legal requirements and ethical responsibilities of professionals working with all children and families. And that's why we're really taking a look at trauma and abuse and making sure we know our roles and responsibilities as mandated reporters if we are working with children. The little steps we're going to take to get to those student learning outcomes, so our learning intentions for this week include understanding the differences in socioeconomic status and the corresponding impact, comprehending the effects of adverse childhood experiences on development, understanding the impact of trauma and the role of trauma-informed practice, knowing the laws regarding mandated reporting, the types of abuse and the signs of symptoms of each type of abuse, and differentiating between developmentally appropriate practices and inappropriate practices for parenting. Now, you're going to know you learned all of that if you can do these things. If you can label the levels in the social class structure in the United States and the impacts on socialization for each level. If you can define and provide at least 3 examples of adverse childhood experiences and the possible outcomes of development. If you can define trauma and apply trauma-informed practice. If you can explain the law surrounding mandated reporting and label the different types of abuse and again the signs and symptoms of those abuse. And if you can describe at least 3 developmentally appropriate practices for parenting children and the benefits of applying those practices. Now with that, I look forward to seeing you in lecture. It's going to be a great week. Bye.